mic recording. I like talking to you.
Uh-huh.
Garrett, it's like you don't even like us. What are you? You had to do that in the microphone?
You really could have aimed any other direction. Thanks.
Jeff's going to be listening to this later on, and his eardrums are going to pop.
Or my speakers are going to break.
Well, that's how we know that he's editing the podcast correctly.
That was your countdown.
3,
Sync
2,
that. And synced.
and anyway, hello and welcome to another episode of Tudor. I hardly know her.
Yay.
Emily, you sound so excited. I don't know why you sound so low on energy, because this is our 50th episode.
Yeah, that's kind of weird to think
We've
about.
gone this long.
You guys
and
are
survived.
still
That's what
listening
she
to
said.
us. Ugh.
Oh, God.
That's also what she said.
I'm watching a lot of Office, so that's
Oh.
baked into my brain. Anyway, 50 episodes. Thanks, everyone, for sticking with us and tolerating us. And
Most of you.
I say that, but thank you so much for listening to the show.
And to help even commemorate the 50th, Garrett decided to show up.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm actually in studio. And by studio, I mean Jeff
Our
and Emily's
family
living
room.
room. What's the difference between a family room and a living room?
Family room has a TV. Living room is where you go to get punished when you're a child.
You're absolutely right. Well, my grandma's living room had a piano, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, but if you were being punished, it was pretty obvious if you were on the piano. Jeff's Jeff's parents' living room also has a piano, and mine did too. Maybe that's the difference.
If you don't have a
Living
piano, you don't have a
rooms.
living room because you don't live yet.
You're grounded. Go in the family or the living room and go culture yourself.
Get some culture, you swine.
Go
Play some Mozart.
go play chopsticks.
High cross buds.
So
That's the recorder.
no
Jeff.
piano here. We're in the TV room. So
It's the family room. Duh.
Tudor headquarters, as I like to call it.
That's.
I've never
on-
called it that ever.
No, but that's it now. Tudor headquarters. This is where all the Tudor knowledge in the world comes from. Sorry, England. America has taken this one.
Get bent, you limey Brits. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I love. It's weird to think about that we have British listeners.
It's
Or
weird to think
English.
that we have listeners all over the world because it's
It's
more than
weird that
just-
we have listeners.
It's weird that people actually
We honestly
listen to
didn't think it would
this.
happen.
This is fucked up. Yeah, no, it's super trippy. I feel like we get most contact from our Australian listeners.
See,
I
that's
feel like
even
I get a
weirder
lot of
'cause
Australian
it's like
listeners who
a whole
are
other hemisphere and everything.
actually. Our website tells us where some of our listeners are from. If you give me just a second, geographic. Oh no, that's the show. Geographic.
Checking your phone makes for great podcasting.
Okay,
Wow,
so
look
we
at this
have-
picture. Oh, wait.
Most of our downloads are from the States. Second,
USA.
the second most. Ooh, this kind of makes me feel cool. The UK, and then Canada, and then Australia. Man, Sweden really likes us.
Ooh.
Germany,
my homeland.
China, New Zealand.
You say China?
Yeah.
How many Chinese listeners we got?
Raise your hands. It's still pretty cool though. Like we're pretty pumped.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think it's cool that UK listeners listen to us because like this is their history and I'm telling them their history. That's like
It's like mansplaining to
history-splaining.
but between
This is
countries.
history. This is her story,
This
guys.
is like listen
Look,
to it.
let me tell you guys what it's really like for the English.
This is what it's like. Listen to it. Like if you listen to someone from like Japan telling me about the history of Civil War.
Maybe our distance gives us a better perspective because we're not so like this
Grown
is
up
our
with it.
history.
Because this
Yeah,
is
but
stuff
okay, but wait.
you learn.
No, no, no.
You learn because you actually enjoy it rather than you had to learn it for class.
Okay, but wait. I talked to the Brit who is on the show, and he says this isn't like the Tudors is not an in-depth piece over there. Like
I
the
believe
Wars
it.
of the Roses is
It's like
is
how we have our different presidents. We don't
But
cover every
also-
single one very in depth. We have like 3 we like really talk about.
Yeah, it'd be
hardcore.
like
But
if, it'd
also-
be like if some British people did a podcast about the Kennedys.
I would totally listen to that because now I want to hear a British person trying to impersonate JFK. It'd be amazing. Okay, but also history in Britain, couple thousand years. History in the U.S., like 200. Like we're not
Yeah.
300 if you're counting
it's a
when.
sneezy episode today.
I know.
It's cold here.
Baby, it's cold out.
Nope, can't do that.
You know what?
TM.
You know what? A lot of people have problems with that song. I don't read it
I
that
have no
way.
issues with that song.
I don't pay attention to things.
I always thought that the lady was kind of just being a little playful.
Me
like,
too.
Oh, but
They're
I
both
should
being
really
flirty.
get
But people are
going."
always like, "Oh,
She
that
knows
line."
she's gonna stay because she likes the guy. That's why.
Right?
That's what I always thought.
Me too. I think the people who are angry at that song just want something to be angry about.
And if you got problems with the song, you get problems with the song. That's all right.
Welcome to the Tudor soapbox.
Pretty much.
Well, let me tell you
we
about
should
the
make
president.
that. We should make that
Oh,
a
God.
we should make that a thing. The Tudor soapbox, and that way people who don't want to listen to it don't have to, and they can skip forward 30 seconds or so. Raise your hands if that's what you want.
Okay, count you. You put your hand down.
I just am picturing people like driving to work or like in their cubicles, and their hands are raised, and their bosses are like, "What the fuck?"
It's for the podcast, boss.
They told me to raise my hand, and that's how Hitler got into power.
Oh, Jim. Oh, Jim. Anyway.
I mean, he's right. So let's actually get back. We're off the soapbox and off the. I jumped off the soapbox and now
baby,
we're.
it's Tudor.
Man, they really fell off the horse on that one.
Man, Henry
Call
really
back.
fell off the horse on that one.
Speaking of Henry,
Speaking of Hank,
Hank Eighth.
we gonna chat about Hank. It's been a while since we've really discussed Henry. I think the last episode was probably Henry and Charles Brandon. Don't you think? Was that the last one?
The bromance episode.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that was the last time we actually talked about
I
Henry.
mean, to be fair, Henry always kind of pops up here and there.
He's kind of like the
He
background
does.
subject, but it's been a long time since we had one just like about him.
Yeah, so I think it's high time we discuss Hank again.
Because, to be fair, this entire podcast is based around Henry VIII, and
I mean, it all like that's
More or
where
less.
the real interest stems from. So, we're going to talk about his childhood.
Little Henry, what a scamp.
Yeah, he was. Well, okay, so here's the thing. You'd think there'd be a little bit more information about Henry VIII's childhood just because his adulthood is so well known.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not nearly as much as you'd think.
Which is kind of fascinating because his father was so well known. You think his rest of his family will be well
Well,
documented when they're
see,
growing
that's-
up.
I say
Because-
give it a year,
well,
and
it's
this will
like-
be a show on Netflix.
Oh my God, our
Adventures
show,
of
our
Young Henry.
Tudor, I Hardly Know Her is going to be a show on Netflix. Do you know something we don't? Is it going to be like lore? It's going to be animated. I want the Dan Harmon animation team working on this.
Tudor Quest.
Yes.
You know, we're supposed to go play a tabletop role-playing game after we're done recording this. And I think
Nerds.
we just need to make our own
Okay, I am changing
Tudor
my
top
character.
role-playing game.
Okay, no.
Can you
Here's
survive?
the thing. I think we should all go and change our characters to make them like some of the historical figures we talk about, and then we'll just not tell Mac. And I really am excited for him to listen to this
Which
episode
one had
now.
which person in history had gambling problems?
Henry.
Cool, I get to be Henry VIII.
Which one of them was a space bug?
Charles Brandon,
Okay.
definitely.
Oh, I thought that was Cromwell.
Which one was the cat? I think Elizabeth.
Yeah.
I think Queen Elizabeth.
Okay.
She smells like cat pee all the time.
Okay, so what I was gonna say was
She's
that
single. She's crazy.
So what I was gonna say was that a lot of the stuff about Henry VIII's youth was really more focused on Henry VII
See, I figure it's
than
like
Henry VIII.
that or his brother, because everyone's like, his brother's the one's going to be king.
I need to find a book about Arthur because I know nothing about him
There's a
besides that
bunch of
he
books about Arthur.
was potentially.
Yeah, they're aardvark.
Thank you, Jeff.
I said, hey.
What a wonderful kind of day. Hey.
We're going too many tangents, guys.
No
Yeah.
tangents ever. This is not about our entertainment.
Only sines and cosines here.
God damn it.
Fuck
That
you.
was a stupid math.
I hate you because I hate
But
math.
I love you for it.
I want a divorce.
God damn it, I hate you, but I respect you.
Oh, that's probably going to get even more confusing is when I tell people I want a divorce from Garrett.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
I'm Anne Boleyn.
Yes.
I'm such an Anne.
Actually, that'd be a fun quiz. I'm going to make a quiz.
which wife are you?
Which wife are you? Okay, so
How many times have you been beheaded?
I've done quizzes like that, and the questions are like, which wife are you? Or the questions are like, You find out Henry VIII is having an affair. What do you do? And the first answer is like, obviously, Catherine. It's like, I ignore it because I love my husband and my duty is just to produce children. And then the second one is, I yell at him because nobody sleeps with the king but me. And the third one is, I don't know. I don't have an opinion. And like,
That's Jane.
like they're so obviously geared
You should make one, but
towards-
it's just like really dumb, like cosmopolitan kind of like.
What's
You-
what's your spirit animal? Ugh.
If you can get a
What's
whole
your
tub
favorite position in Tudor times?
of everyone watching,
Anyway.
I like the Lutheran position. Okay. Do we actually want to talk about Henry when he's a wee baby?
I am kind of curious to how, because it's almost similar to Elizabeth, how she grew up knowing I'm never going to be queen.
Yeah.
And that's
So
the same thing with Henry.
yeah, and that's definitely
He
part
just
of
loved his
why
mother, and
we don't
he
know
was
too
gonna
much.
Be all like, I'm never going to be king
Yeah.
or have tons of wives.
And that's probably why we don't know much about his childhood.
he was a
beyond,
boring child.
He was the spare. That's what he
The
was
spare
called.
to the air.
He was the spare. They had the heir, and he was the spare. So let's talk about his birthplace because he was born in the palace of Placentia.
I don't know if this is true or not.
Not kidding.
What?
Yeah. I'm probably very Americanizing the pronunciation of that, but there's
Placentia.
there is no
Placentia.
Placentia in the States.
That's called a
So
hospital.
Placentia.
Placenteria.
No,
Is that
Placentia. It's probably Placentia.
They had to know what they were doing then.
They didn't call it. I mean, they thought shaving your head would cure baldness, so I don't think they really had a name for
So
the
if you give birth
placenta.
in a building called Placentia, you'll have a fine birth.
That's where Elizabeth was born too.
Like how she
It was
turned
in
out.
Greenwich, FYI. Also, I am not the only idiot who pronounced Greenwich wrong because my little sister Abby was going to New York City and they have Greenwich Village and she called it like Greenwich or something.
Well,
So-
I could see people calling it that if they're.
Don't tell any New Yorker you called it wrong.
Do they call it Greenwich?
It's Greenwich Village in New York.
Well, it's like the whole thing with Celtics and Celtics. Celtics is correct.
One of them's a sports team. One of them's a group of people.
Well, like, it's supposed to be pronounced Celtic, but everyone just kept getting it wrong and no one wants to correct it.
No, it's because the sports team is
Because they're
called
from
the Celtics.
Boston.
They're from
They're
Boston.
from Boston.
Fucking
Um,
Celtics.
So he was
Wicked
born in
retarded.
the palace of Placentia. It gets a different pronunciation every time. And he was obviously the second son and the third child. So his brother Arthur was first, and then his sister Margaret, and then there was Hank.
So he was the youngest.
He was not the youngest. He was the youngest when he was born.
Uh,
But then he had a little sister named Mary. So, and then a couple other siblings who died because it was the 1400s.
they weren't born in that castle. That was the problem.
They weren't born in Pleasant.
In the pleasure room.
There was actually a place called the Pleasure Palace, I think.
Wait, what?
I don't think
They're
it
not
was.
very creative with the names.
I think it was like
There's
a
so many
nickname
palaces. You
or
run
a
out
name
of-
it was given after. I'm basing this purely off of a nonfiction
That's
book
Lazy
I read
Sunday
called The Pleasure
Palace.
Palace.
That is.
That's Dick in a Box Palace. So when he was born, he kind of got a lot of honors almost immediately. And mostly it was because Henry VII didn't want to give it to people who could then use that power. So when he was 2, he was made Constable of Dover Castle and the Lord Warden of the Cinque Port. So I would like you guys to imagine a little toddler.
I just visualize though. It's like you see like the play castles in people's backyards. It's like that's what he got him. But he's like actually like made like a real castle though.
Okay. You know, just something for the kid to play around.
Yeah. With,
So then-
oh look, he has his own slaves.
When he was 3, he was the Earl Marshal of England, the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland. He was inducted into the Order of the
Lieutenant
Bath,
Henry.
and that's the one where you're actually given a bath, which was not abnormal for a 3-year-old. So he was just like, okay, it's bath time. And then he was made the Duke of York, which is always like the second son's title. And he was the Warden of the Scottish Marshes. So like, I just love imagining this little toddler.
What's my name? They keep calling me different things.
He's got more titles than Daenerys.
He does.
This is as bad
He's
as
Henry
Cromwell.
Stormborn of the house Tudor.
And that's Brendan. Just Brendan.
That's just Brendan. So because he was the second son, he was that spare. He wasn't really expected to do much. He was going to train for the church, and it was likely he was going to become the Archbishop of Canterbury, because being wealthy always has its perks. So you automatically get a leg up in the church, apparently.
Is that a weird thing for
No.
for not only royalty but for somebody who's in line to be king?
Well, he wasn't expected to be king. So here's the thing:
But just in case.
I read reports that
Break glass in
Arthur.
case of emergency.
I read reports that Arthur was a sickly kid, but then I've also read things that said no, he was just skinny. Like he wasn't
Same thing
sick.
people say about me.
Garrett's a sickly kid.
God, eat a sandwich.
I mean, I am thin, but I am also very sickly.
That is, both are true in Garrett's case.
Help me.
No, it's just weird because some of the reports I don't even know where they come from, but most things you read about Arthur are like he was such a sickly child.
Well, it's like it's whoever's
And-
interpretation, because some people just see him and they think he looks sick. You know, probably at the time he was just thin
What
or
I'm
lanky.
wondering is there was a time where he was sick, and then some ambassador
He must get sick all the time.
was like, oh, he's so sickly. And then that's the only historical report about Arthur's health. And then he also died of the sweating sickness, which hit the weak, and Anne Boleyn got the sweating sickness. It didn't mean she was sickly. Henry Fitzroy died of the sweating sickness. It doesn't mean he was sickly. So I think I don't know if he was actually like an ill child all the time, because why would Henry VII have ignored Henry VIII if his eldest was close to death's door all the time?
Yeah.
I also blame some popular fiction authors who write a lot of books about this time period, and they always describe Arthur as sickly.
Well, it gives a good, like, fascinating characterization of this to be king is just so frail
yeah.
and can barely function. Well, there's the movie Kingdom of Heaven,
Okay.
and there's the king in that who's pretty much plague-ridden. He's played by Edward Norton, and
Oh,
he's
yeah.
always masked and covered because he's
yeah,
just
but
so
he's got like leprosy or something.
yeah. And it's just kind of those things that show, like, he's supposed to be this big, powerful king figure, but look how frail he is of a person. It makes sense for writing a fiction history, because it makes for good, like, character writing.
Yeah.
But in actual history, I'm sure people just misinterpret like one document
report.
made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Henry got an education that befitted royalty, but was also like meant to go to the church. Like he wasn't told like this is how you be in charge of stuff. He learned Latin and French, which he was fluent in, but then he also knew Italian, Spanish, and Greek. So he was incredibly smart. Apparently, as a kid, he was super precocious, and I guess he had an encyclopedic memory. And I don't know exactly what encyclopedic is, but I'm just assuming that means he has what's it called when you remember everything?
Eidetic memory.
That.
Photographic memory.
Both.
Same thing.
Same
Yeah.
thing. So I'm just assuming
Could
it's,
you name
if
151
not the
Pokemon?
same, very
I don't think so.
Can
You
you do
could
the rap
prob-
right now, Jeff?
do the rap. Soapbox. Jeff has to do the rap.
God damn it. I can't do the rap.
Fast. Okay. Fine.
Put too much pressure on him.
I'm scared now. I don't want to do it.
Fine. Jeff doesn't like being on stage.
fright.
So he learned his young education consisted of grammar, and he learned the alphabet. Interestingly, there were only 24 letters in the alphabet when Henry was taught them. I bet you I didn't exist.
And W.
J.
No J existed. Let's just look it up.
Take out W.
So,
just put two V's. and you're good.
I did Latin back in like middle school and like
Or was it U?
freshman year of.
Was it U? Because didn't they use V's?
No, there was U's.
No, you're thinking about Roman times when they had to
Damn it, you're
carve.
right.
Because Roman
When they
times.
had to carve letters, and
No,
you
like,
can't
'cause-
carve a.
Because actually in Roman times, at least when I learned Latin, there was no J's.
So you would have been just F.
Yeah. Or been spelled like differently.
Probably with a G.
I'd be like, or like Y. I'd be like, Yef.
Yef.
Yeah.
Yef.
See, when I'm googling it,
You
all
just
I'm
sound like you're trying to say
finding,
yes, except you got some weird lisp. Yeah.
Yes.
all I'm finding is. Oh, there we go. Okay. Generally consisted of 24 letters. That's the Old English Latin alphabet. Hold on. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. What? I just want to find out what letters. Okay, I'm 90% sure I didn't exist, and because they used Y.
I like how we see Boleyn was with a Y, things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Either way, only 24 letters.
Cool.
Easier on him than us. So he had a ton of tutors and tutors. He also had like 4 main tutors, but then he communicated with 2 humanists from that time. One was Erasmus, and another was Thomas More, whom, if you remember, he later executed. So that may have been a bit awkward.
Thanks for teaching me all that stuff.
He taught him ethics.
More is quoted as saying, "He is in every respect a most accomplished prince." And I bet you when he was on the block, he was like, "I take it back."
You asshole.
I take away that gold star I gave you back then.
You're getting a red card.
So Henry's education consisted of language, grammar, theology, history, rhetoric, logic, philosophy, arithmetic, literature, geometry, music, and he also had a special interest in astronomy, navigation, and cartography.
No sciences?
Well,
What's astronomy? You study.
that was
You just stare into
probably
space
as
and you're
scientific
like,
as it got.
There's some stars.
Henry didn't need to know
Yeah.
much else. So he was also very passionate about sports. I know we've talked about that. He was taught to ride, joust. He was taught tennis, archery, hunting,
Apparently not the
and
joust very well.
dancing. Well, he did for a little bit until he got knocked off the horse. At least he didn't get
Look,
a
you have
joust.
one bad day on the horse. And
Look,
you
at
never
least he
live it
didn't get
down.
jousted in the face like a certain French king. So here's the thing about his relationship with his family. So he had 3 siblings. There were 4 children. Arthur, who was the heir. So Henry VII very much favored Arthur. He was like, he's just an extra. You go to the side.
Was there any bad blood because of that, do you think?
See,
Or do you think he just
couldn't
accepted,
find.
like, yeah, this is the way it is?
Well,
I
back-
think it was probably he accepted it. This is the way it is. But also, when you're the Prince of Wales in that time, you didn't stay at home with your family and just like shadow your dad. You were actually sent to Ludlow Castle, or at least Arthur was, and he was in charge of Wales. So that's why he was the Prince of Wales. Not those whales.
Damn it.
He's just at SeaWorld like teaching.
Wouldn't that be another?
Shimu!
Wouldn't that be a great name for Aquaman? Aquaman, Prince of Wales.
God, that'd be actually freaking awesome.
Then it
Prince
would
of Sharks.
still be better than the DC movies.
Hey, he was pretty good in Justice League.
He was. I really
Oh
liked
yeah,
Justice League.
my man.
My
Howdy
man.
do.
I was okay with him.
Bro down.
I liked the water cowboy. So Arthur would be at Ludlow, and he was actually educated on how to rule, and he would rule Wales. So Arthur and Henry didn't really interact that much. And then his sister Margaret, who was older than him, she was also sent to Scotland to marry her husband. So Henry's real only relationship with his sibling was his sister Mary. So he had a sense of duty to Margaret just because he knew she was his sister. But his favorite was Mary. And that's why when she married his best friend without permission, he forgave her. You know, granted, he slapped a heavy fine on her, but like he would have been well within his
You're
rights.
allowed to get married, but I'll charge you for it.
He would have been well within his rights to actually imprison her, which he did do to his niece. Was it him who did it to his niece? Yeah, his niece. He put her in prison because she was of the royal blood and she married without permission. So he was much more forgiving of his favorite sister Mary. And it was because they grew up together. They were the only ones left in the nursery when their siblings went away, and they had a grand old time. So Henry VII was apparently very stern with his baby Henry. And
quick question: whenever he had to punish family members for things like that, do you think he like actually felt bad for it? It was like, hey, you know, I got to make an example out of you, or do you think it's just like, nope,
Henry
you.
VII?
Henry VIII.
Oh, Henry VIII. I think he was like, nope, screw you.
Okay.
Like, I think with Mary, he was like, I'm annoyed. I'm going to forgive you, but I want you to remember I'm annoyed.
Okay.
But with like Margaret Douglas, he was just like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I barely know you.
So okay.
So I think he kind of felt it. It was mostly like, I am in charge of you and you disobeyed me. So away you go. I don't think there was much oh, maybe I shouldn't. This could make Thanksgiving awkward. So if only we still lived in a world like that where
Well, he already
like
makes Thanksgiving awkward. He eats the whole turkey.
They're
Also,
like, where the hell does
Thanksgiving
turkey
doesn't
even come?
exist.
Where does turkey even come from?
right. So Henry VII was very stern with him and possibly pretty distant with him. He was just like, I don't like, you're just there. Just go do your thing. You're whatever. So Henry VIII probably had some serious daddy issues. So then
And mommy issues.
he loved his mother. We're going to talk a little bit about that.
Oh yeah.
Mother.
Who's he? Mike Pence?
Do you think our listeners in other countries follow enough of our politics to
I
know?
think everybody's following American politics.
No.
at this point.
They follow the orange one, but I don't know if they follow enough
Yeah,
about
Mike Pence.
the Oompa Loompa next to him. So for those in other countries or those in our country who don't know this, joy of joys, Mike Pence was the governor of Indiana, where we live. So we have a little bit more knowledge about him. He calls his wife mother, and it freaks out a lot of people. So just so other people are aware.
Like I can see that. Like I think I've been around families that have done that, but he's also like,
there's something creepy about him.
yeah, he's
My grandfather called my grandmother mother. And here's the thing. When you're talking to your kids, you say, go ask daddy, go ask mommy.
Mhm.
You know, I see my siblings do it all the time. It was what my parents did. Go ask mom, go ask dad. But my dad still called my mom Ruth.
yeah.
And my mom still called my dad Mark. My grandparents always called each other mother and father, though. Maybe it's so it was a generational thing for them, but Mike Pence is one generation removed from that. So I think he's just weird.
Mike Pence is unnatural as a human being in the same way that Mark Zuckerberg is unnatural as a human being.
Mike Pence is in his office listening to this, and he's like, guys, it's not weird.
Just wanted to listen to the two.
I just want to banish the mutants.
Unbeknownst to him, he is a mutant.
He's just
His
trying
powers
to
are
make a
just
law that
latent.
outlaws X-Men.
Okay, back to Hank. So in 1501, Henry played a role in his brother's marriage. He would do that again later. But
Go on.
so Catherine came over from Spain, and it's said that he was instantly smitten with her. I don't know if he instantly fell in love with her, but he definitely thought she was beautiful, and like there's probably a little bit of jealousy going on that his brother got to marry someone so beautiful and wonderful and all that. So on the wedding day, he actually escorted Catherine to, I don't know if it was to the altar, but to the wedding ceremony. Henry did. And that was actually pretty normal, apparently, where the second son would just...
It's like, God, you're hot.
Jesus Christ.
God,
I'm only 10, but I am.
Here, I'd tell you.
Yeah, he was 10, so
Oh, he
let's
was
not
all
gross
ready to
this
have
out.
kids.
He was way ready. So, we
Once you
already
hit double digits, you're ready.
pretty much. I already talked about Mary. So then in 1502, as we all know, Arthur died. Unfortunately.
Henry's like,
I actually just saw a thing and it suggested that Arthur died of the bubonic plague, but it was probably the sweating sickness, not the bubonic plague. That would have been reported. Like, everybody knew what the bubonic plague was at that point. So Henry became the heir, and his father was instantly like, you're okay. And he started treating him better.
You're starting to look a lot better.
Yeah. But there wasn't a ton of info on how things changed because everything at that point was like, and then Henry VII did this. So there's not really much about how Henry VIII not really reacted, but how things worked out for him. Except that we know he still didn't take much part in actually ruling anything. So Arthur got to rule Ludlow, and Henry VIII was actually kept with his father, and he didn't really receive much different of an education than what he'd actually gotten. So
Yeah, because it sounds like he at least got a really good education
did.
before all this.
He did, but you can be smart and not know how to rule a country. But sorry.
Were you clearing your throat or?
Don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
So he didn't appear in public very much at all. And
This might be a divisive episode,
we lose every listener.
including the foreign ones.
I
which is
think we'd
weird.
lose listeners because I just indicated that the ruler was smart, which we know he's not. So after Arthur died, his mother was like, "Don't worry, Henry VII." I'm sure that's what she called him. Henry VII, we can still have more kids. We're still young, and I haven't stopped being able to have children. So she got pregnant, and then she died because life sucked. And Henry was super devastated about that because his mother was his like best friend. He loved her. They were super close. She doted on him. He was spoiled by
Mama's
her.
boy.
He was a mama's boy. So here's an interesting theory that has come up a couple times recently. The theory is that Henry VII's marriages all failed because he was so intent on having a wife as perfect as his mother.
Henry VIII.
Yes, sorry, thank you. So if you look at his mother, she was not meek, but she definitely didn't argue with her husband. She didn't take part in any politics. She listened to her mother-in-law, she listened to her husband, and all she did was produce children and do queenly duties.
Jane.
What?
So
Jane.
Yeah.
And that's why people think Jane was his favorite. To add to it, she also died in childbirth. So he's like, well, if I'm going to lose a wife, it may as well have been giving me an heir. So then that also could be
it's like,
why
you get what you ask for.
that could also his relationship with his father and his siblings and his mother could also explain why he was so hell-bent on having an heir. So we all know the Tudor dynasty needed to have like kind of a linear flow to it just because they did not come to power easily by just inheriting the crown. Henry VII had to fight for it. So he needed to have heirs to continue that. But he could have also been so hell-bent on having heirs because he himself experienced what happens when the first heir dies. So it's not enough to just have the daughters. So I'm a big fan of the theory that Henry VIII was looking for a wife that was like his mother. So he would have been happy with Catherine if she hadn't been so political.
So he definitely had a bit of an Oedipus complex, do you think?
I don't think it was an Oedipus complex. I think his mother was the only one to show him true love when he was a kid.
Okay.
And so he thought she was like the perfect woman. You know? I don't think he wanted to like bang her or anything. I think he just was like, this is how true love happens. You know? And his mother and father had a good marriage. They truly loved each other. So he probably saw that as a good example. I mean, I think my parents are a great example of marriage, and I think that contributes to Jeff and my marriage being decent. So I like how you just looked at Jeff for confirmation. It's like
Decent. I thought you guys have a great marriage.
I mean, I feel weird saying that. I'll take your word for it.
As an outsider, I think you guys have a wonderful marriage.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we win.
Fuck yeah.
And to that one listener who wrote in, Emily and I have a great marriage.
And to that one listener who wrote in, Garrett and Jeff have a great marriage.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I don't care if he's lanky. He's warm.
No one has ever said that about me.
what, that you're warm or that you're lanky?
That I'm warm. That I'm good for cuddling. I'm bony.
Oh, he's a little cuddle
That's
bug.
okay if you're bony. You can be cuddly and bony at the same time.
Mm-mm.
Look, I cuddle skeletons all the time. As long as you feel the love emanating from their dead, dry bones.
Okay, this is now getting really weird.
Okay, so Henry VIII was looking for... So, if you look at his marriage to Catherine of Aragon, he was content with it for the first 20 years, 15 years or so. Probably closer to 15 than 20. And it was because she was obedient. She did look the other way when he had affairs. And she was producing children even if they didn't live.
I don't know
And
if I
the
asked
only
this. Sorry.
thing that... just one second. The only thing that she was kind of quote-unquote failing at was that she was being too politically involved. But Catherine of Aragon's mother was Isabella of Castile, and she was a warrior queen. So She was not going to just set aside and let her husband do whatever he wanted in everything. What was your question?
Sorry. What? And I've probably asked this before.
That's fine.
Was it common, very common for the kings to go off and just bang on their
Yes.
broads? Okay.
It was because
It's good to be the king.
there's a book I read called Sex with Kings, and it's about the mistresses of kings. Most
Their
marriages
tell-all book.
were political, and they were set up as treaties. It was set up to unite kingdoms. It had nothing to do with love. Now, just because they were political didn't mean you couldn't fall in love. Henry VII loved Elizabeth of York, and Henry VIII loved Catherine of Aragon at first. But there's two aspects to that. First of all, it was okay for them to fall in love. Second of all, when their wives were pregnant, they weren't allowed to have sex with them. So king's got to have some fun. So he was usually going to be having an affair while his wife was pregnant, or in the 6
towel boy
weeks
can only
following.
do so much.
Right.
Jeff,
That cat,
no.
that that towel was just not as loving.
You know, I was gonna make a joke about that, and then I
Jeff
thought
beat
better
you
of
to
it.
Jeff beat
Nope.
you to it.
If you know what I mean.
It's like I'm towel boy tonight.
So that's the marriage wife thing, part of how he grew up. Definitely, I definitely think it influenced his lack of success in marriage later on. So Catherine of Aragon was left as a widow, and she claims that they never had sex. She never had sex with her husband. So Henry VII was like, well, this treaty is still very important to me. I need to unite my
Did
little kingdom with a big, powerful European monarchy. So
people check back then?
how so?
Check to make sure that they had sex or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Bloody sheets.
Okay.
And I feel like that was brought up, but the duenna, who was like the nanny of Catherine, had something to do with the sheets the day after. I just don't remember what. So
So how long were Catherine and Arthur
20
married?
weeks.
Okay.
Not very long, just a couple months.
You'd think they'd, fool around a bit.
Okay, so I think we've talked about this before, but I still really like discussing it. This is the Arthur was sickly thing.
Oh.
So
This dick don't work.
that could have been
Oh
it.
shit! Emily gave me a look.
Okay, so here's the thing. History is written by the winners. Henry VIII was the winner.
Arthur clearly wasn't.
Arthur clearly wasn't. So,
Which is funny because like every time I hear Arthur, I just think of King Arthur.
he was named after King Arthur.
Convenient.
So here's something to think about. Arthur may not have been sickly, and Henry would have wanted to marry Catherine, but he would have felt skeevy marrying his brother's widow, unless she wasn't really his wife. So he could have put forward, or it could have been in his time and his kingship said that Arthur was sickly, and that's how that whole idea came about. Because if Arthur was sickly, then it would have been understandable for them to have not consummated a marriage over 5-6 months, right?
So you're saying Henry spread that rumor?
I don't think he spread the rumor, but I think that Henry's
Because
reign.
that would be salacious as fuck.
I think Henry's
I
reign
love that.
shaped how Arthur was viewed.
Okay.
It's just like what's another good example of? I'm trying to think of another good example of history being written, but it's like wars. If you look at the winners of wars, they're the ones who are like, we were right. Like the Revolutionary War, if we'd lost, it would have been a civil war, or we call it like the Revolutionary War or the War for Independence. Well, that's because we won it. The actual Civil War, if we'd lost it, if the North had lost it, it would have been considered a Revolutionary War, another war for independence, right? So it's just like whoever wins gets to say how it happened. That's why all the bad stuff is hidden. That's why like we don't really talk like it. You just look at history and you can see that happening.
Yeah.
So I can totally see. I don't necessarily think Henry was like, well, I want to marry Catherine, so let's just pretend that Arthur has always been sick. I don't think he did something that direct, but I think the fact that he married Catherine and then was able to like look back and say, oh yeah, this happened. I think they may have been able to say Arthur was always sick, so he never could have consummated his marriage.
Gotcha.
One author, Philippa Gregory, believes that Catherine of Aragon did sleep with Arthur. And I think she's one of the few who found reports that said that Arthur was not always sickly. Her belief is that Catherine of Aragon, even though she was super pious, even though she was super pious, she felt like it was sufficient to lie about consummating her marriage because she was called by God to be the Queen of England. So
But
you can lie about something small if you're reaching God's big goal.
so if Catherine and Arthur had consummated, there would have been evidence.
No, because the evidence presented was mostly that on Arthur's wedding, the day after his wedding night, he came out and told his men, bring me wine for tonight. I've been in the midst of England or of Spain. Right?
Ooh.
I know. That was like the main evidence presented. But the bloody sheets thing, we're going to get into some anatomy, guys. A hymen can break at any time, not just during the first time you have sex. You can, if you fall off your horse, if you sit weirdly, if you you can get a broken hymen as a toddler, right? And so you're not necessarily going to bleed when you lose your virginity. It's just not. It's not quote unquote fact. Okay, so now here's the thing. Henry VII needed the treaty with Spain. He needed Catherine to stay there for a little while. Isabel of Castile was very powerful. Ferdinand of Aragon was very powerful. He needed that dual power to support his kingdom. So when he thought about Henry VII marrying Catherine, he went and got papal dispensations. Isabella and Ferdinand only wanted a dispensation for they wanted a dispensation that would just say it's okay for them to get married. Henry VII got a dispensation for affinity, meaning if Catherine and Arthur slept together, then it's still okay for Catherine and Henry to get married. Affinity is relation, and so technically Catherine would have been Henry's sister. Mm-hmm. So the Pope would have said, like, it's cool, they're fine. So Henry VII got one of those. Catherine and Isabel and Ferdinand didn't think they needed one, so they didn't cover that base. They were like, I trust Catherine. Of course she didn't sleep with him. That's not needed. So then Isabella died, and Catherine lost a ton of value on the marriage market. So Henry VII was just like, she's fine. So even though they'd signed a treaty and Henry VIII and Catherine were officially betrothed, Henry VIII rejected the marriage, the non-marriage, that the marriage yet to be, when he was 14 years old, which is when he would have been legally of age to marry her. That rejection of the marriage would come again later on.
If you remember right, I never actually agreed to this thing.
Right.
20 years later.
Twice. So it's even said that Henry VII, before the marriage was rejected, thought of marrying Catherine again because...
I remember you saying that before, yeah.
Right, because Henry's mother died. So
She's just being passed around amongst all those boys.
the Tudors liked that Catherine. But then Henry VII died. Henry VIII was not at all prepared for the duties of a king. And in fact, a lot of the first years of his reign, he did a little bit of stuff, but mostly he had advisors who would handle most of the actual ruling. This is why Wolsey was so important in the beginning. He had advised Henry VII, and he kind of got passed on to Henry VIII. So then he almost immediately was like, my father said that he wanted me to marry Catherine, so I'm going to marry Catherine. So he did. And then his coronation was on June 23rd, 1509. So the Henry rejecting Catherine and then accepting Catherine, I think what happened was his father likely said, you have to reject Catherine. You have to reject this betrothal. And that was like a formal thing that he had to do. He couldn't just like be like, okay, Dad. You had to like go in front of people and say, this ain't happening. And so it was very likely that Henry VIII actually wanted to marry Catherine. And so he did when his father died. And he just bullshitted that his dad said it was his dying wish. So.
No, I swear on his deathbed he said it. He's like, "Oh, son, marry Catherine."
I hate you. Give my son my lightsaber. So I think that's it for Henry's youth. Oh, there's a book recommendation. I haven't read it yet, but it was recommended by a website, the Tudor Trail, I believe. It's called The Making of Henry VIII. It's by Mary Louise Bruce, and that's about Henry VIII and like how he came to be who he was really known as. I'm gonna read it eventually. So if you're looking for a book to read, it's a nonfiction. Check that shit out. That's it.
Right.
Any questions, guys?
No, that's kind of answered everything that I had for you during the show.
Cool.
Well done.
Happy 50th.
Cool.
Happy 50th to us.
This was a good one.
Arthur in this case is Johnny,
Be good.
and Catherine Aragon is Lisa,
Oh
and
my
Mark
God.
is Henry.
Oh, we're doing the room. Yes.
So,
No.
so we saw the disaster
think
artist.
would that
I'm just trying to
movie.
make dumb connections.
Here's a tangent, guys. But
was
go
great.
see the disaster artist. Because I've never felt bad for a serial killer until this
He's not
movie.
a serial killer. He's like
He's probably
like
a serial
Frankenstein
killer.
or vampire.
No, not Frankenstein.
You're all villain.
You're all valid.
If you guys haven't seen The Room, do yourself a favor. Go just
It's okay. Wait,
Try to watch
let's set
The
up
Room.
expectations. It's not a good movie, but it is
The whole
delightfully
point of
bad.
The Room,
The best worst
it's
movie.
famously bad.
It's beautifully, artistically bad.
And
So-
the reason of it is because the main guy, Tommy Wiseau, is just so
Is a
oblivious
vampire.
of his own irony.
He's probably a serial guys. All those keys on the key ring, like I feel like that's a trademark of
He's D.B.
serial
Cooper.
killer.
We already decided this.
He's DB Cooper. So this is a fun little tangent, but I do like the game of deciding who in the room is Henry VIII because you could give an argument for Mark and you could give an argument for Johnny. But Lisa is definitely Catherine of Aragon. Little poor Catherine of Aragon. Sorry, Catherine of Aragon. I need to apologize to your soul. What do you think?
Tell us what you think.
Yeah. Message us. Tweet us. Tell us what you think of the disaster artist. Because Garrett would finally engage with our Facebook fans if somebody started tweeting about the room
What do you mean I'd finally start engaging with them? I engage with them sometimes.
over the recordings.
What do you mean?
Okay, one time. I'm sorry, Garrett. We love you.
Do you?
Yes, I
Speaking
do.
of his engaging with us, follow us
Yes,
on
follow us.
Facebook and Twitter.
Oh, I
Da,
thought we were
da,
gonna
da.
get engaged. Oh,
Um,
I'm sad.
I don't think I have any shout outs. Hey, Kayla, I hope you found episode 25 of the Tudors.
Oh,
Or of Tudor, I hardly know her.
I don't know if we should share the picture. The one of our listeners got these awesome pictures of
Oh, the
Was it-
Tudor cats?
Tudor cats.
I love that. So,
like various cats
yes,
in
I'll
outfits.
if hold on, I have to ask her permission to share it because I would like to share it. One of our listeners has an amazing husband who gave her pictures of cats as the Tudors. So you've got Catherine and Anne and Jane and
Cat thread.
fuck you. I love you. So that was pretty awesome. I'm going to see if Amy's okay with us sharing that. And also, I have a picture of a portrait of young Henry VII, but it does. Of young Henry. That doesn't look right. Those clothes don't look at all. No, I gotta research this. There's a thing that was going around online of a portrait from the 1500s or so being cleaned. And it's really cool to look at. You see the before and after when it was cleaned. And the difference is very interesting. But it says it's a 400-year-old Prince Henry. But the hat looks very 1600s. And the shirt collar looks very 1600s. So I wish you guys knew enough. I don't think that looks very Henrician. It looks more Elizabethan. I'm going to share it, and I'll get your guys' opinion.
Who's that supposed to be?
That's supposed to be young Henry.
Jeez, go back.
It just doesn't look right.
The hat looks weird.
It's the hat.
Who is that, Elizabeth?
No, it's supposed to be Henry. Although it was said that Elizabeth looked a lot like Henry.
It's Elizabeth's son. Dum, bum,
Oh.
bum. Scandals.
So many rumors about her sons. So follow us on Twitter at Tudor Know Her. Also check out Facebook. It's just Tudor I Hardly Know Her. Guys, last week there was an issue on iTunes where the episode would not, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, but the episode would not show up unless you were a subscriber. It took a couple of days. That is apparently an issue that happens with our hosting platform occasionally. Obviously, it's the first time it's happened with ours, but you can bypass that problem by simply subscribing. So if you subscribe, you will always get the episodes.
You subscribe through iTunes. Are we
Stitcher.
on anything else?
We're on Stitcher. Yeah, I added
Have we
us
always
to
been on
Stitcher.
Stitcher?
No, that was just in the last couple of weeks.
Nice.
So I added us
Get
to
us on
Stitcher.
Stitcher.
So
I mean,
we're
you
there.
can't hear us if you use Stitcher, and
Yes.
figure it out.
I was going to say something else, and I just don't remember what. I think a thanks is due.
Happiest.
Well,
50th.
first, thank you, Jeff and Garrett, for allowing me to actually talk about the Tudors more.
Oh gosh.
Jeff
Oh,
always let me do it.
Nope.
No, seriously, Jeff always let me talk about it, and it was very sweet because he actually listened, and even if he didn't have anything to respond, he would at least listen to me.
I was good at nodding.
Jeff is very good at nodding. I just appreciate that he lets me talk about something so crazy. And thank you, Garrett, for making our laughs happen.
Sorry, I'm trying to find a comfortable way to sit on the couch because my legs are all getting cramped
We are
up.
so old. My hips hurt right now.
Especially when he doesn't talk into the microphone.
I'm trying, Jeff.
Garrett's an old man. Old man
Oh,
Garrett.
also we forgot on iTunes or whatever you're getting this through. Comment and leave us reviews and stuff, and let people know that what you think of us.
Yes, please. It helps others find our podcast.
And tell your friends.
But only if they don't expect real historians, because we are not Dan Carlin.
Yeah, we are.
We are just friends having fun.
We are amateurs.
Super amateurs right now. Anyway. I think that's it. Right, guys?
Yeah, so thanks everyone for making this possible. We would have probably farted out around like episode 10 or something if nobody was listening.
Probably. But it's pretty cool to see all those numbers go up and to see how many people around the world listen to us.
And the interactions with us.
I mean,
what
I
really
love
makes
those.
us happy and want to keep doing it is people want to interact with us online.
We have a lot of fun with this. We really appreciate you all. Maybe we should do a giveaway or something.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
Well, Garrett's worn shirts.
Maybe we should make.
Yeah,
maybe we should make
get a shirt that was worn on the podcast.
I think we should make a shirt that says like Henry the Eighth.
Oh man,
No.
Because I kind of.
No,
I
we
kind of
need is-
think.
Bastard by Bessie Blount.
Dude.
No, we're saying that for an actual fragrance.
I think we should do some. Because I would totally make a tote bag. I would make a tote bag. I've actually been fudging around with a logo that
like
would
an
work
old,
specifically.
old like 90s bad like comedy poster of King Napped.
Of King Napped.
This is much more work than I would ever put into something.
I wouldn't. I have fun doing this. Maybe that'll happen.
I don't know Photoshop.
Let us know if you'd actually
I
want to
do.
buy something. I wouldn't do like insane prices, but
Yeah.
I think it'd be fun just to make this and like, yeah.
If you want some swag, or if you know somebody who likes the Tudors and you
I
want
mean,
to give
I-
them some swag.
I kind of just want to make myself a tote.
All right, so we're not doing merchandise. Emily's just making herself a custom tote.
Nobody else gets it. Okay, I think that's it now. Now we can actually go.
Okay, so thank you everybody for
Aye.
50 episodes, and until next time.
Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. Goodbye.
We were in sync.
For the first
Bye,
time
bye,
First
ever.
time in
Bye.
50 episodes, we were in sync.